Hello, and welcome all to Movie Hunter, the show that tracks down the quality of all sorts of movies. My name is Hunter, and today in the 27th episode, our target is The Nightmare Before Christmas, produced by Touchstone Pictures and Skellington Pictures, and distributed by Buena Vista Pictures Distribution. In 1982, Tim Burton had just finished his stop-motion short film titled Vincent. While working for Walt Disney Feature Animation, Tim Burton wrote a 3-paged poem called The Nightmare Before Christmas, with the intention to turn it into a television special, but also considered other options like a children's book. After the success of Vincent, Disney considered adapting the poem into a short film or TV holiday special, though production stopped after the project was considered, quote, too weird for the company. In 1984, Tim Burton was fired because Disney felt that they were unable to, quote, offer his nocturnal loners enough scope, and Burton went on to direct Beetlejuice in 1989's Batman for Warner Bros. Pictures. In 1990, Burton found out that Disney still owned the film rights, and he and Henry Selick committed to producing a full-length film on the poem, with Selick choosing to not work with MTV on a series based on his short film. Burton himself was unable to direct because of working on Batman Returns, and did not want to be involved in the slow process of stop motion. When asked about Burton's contribution, Henry Selick stated, quote, "I don't want to take away from Tim, but he was not in San Francisco when we made it. He came up 5 times over 2 years and spent no more than 8 or 10 days in total." Disney decided to market the film as Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas in order to gain more of an audience, and Selick stated that the decision was made about 3 weeks before the film went into wide release. The film was directed by Henry Selick, and the screenplay was by Caroline Thompson. The adaptation was by Michael McDowell, and it was based on the story and characters by Tim Burton. The producers were Tim Burton and Denise D. Novi, and the cinematographer was Pete Kozaknik. It was edited by Stan Webb, and the music was by Danny Elfman. Joe Raft was the storyboard supervisor, and Eric Layton supervised animation. The cast includes Danny Elfman, Chris Sarandon, Kathleen O'Hara, William Hickey, Glenn Shaddix, Paul Rubens, Ken Page, Ed Ivory, Joe Ranft, Debbie Durst, Greg Proops, Carrie Katz, Randy Kershew, Sherwood Ball, Carmen Twilley, Glenn Walters, and John Morris. Patrick Stewart recorded opening and ending narration for the film, but was ultimately cut and can be found on the film's official soundtrack album. The film released on October 29, 1993, and made $50 million in the US on a budget of $18 million, and earning a grand total of $107.8 million when adding up all of the film's re-releases. In 2023, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. The film starts on Halloween night with the various monsters and creatures of Halloween Town celebrating. Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King, as well as the leader of the town's yearly celebration, is growing tired of the same thing every year. That night, he wanders into the forest with his ghost dog Zero, and discovers a bunch of trees with doors on them, leading into other holiday worlds. He goes through the Christmas door and is amazed by what he sees. The following day, Jack returns home and introduces all of the citizens to Christmas, though they don't quite understand it all too well. Jack is able to convince them through his mistake in thinking that Santa Claus's name is Sandy Claus. By exaggerating the truth, Jack is able to get the citizens on board, and Jack declares that they will do Christmas this year. Sally, the creation of the mad scientist Dr. Finkelstein, is in love with Jack and has a vision that his Christmas will turn out poorly. She tries to warn him of this, but Jack refuses to listen, enlisting trick-or-treaters Lock, Shock, and Barrel to grab Santa and he tells them not to get their boss involved. Their boss is Jack's rival, a boogeyman named Oogie Boogie. The trick-or-treaters kidnap Santa and bring him to Halloween Town, where Jack takes his hat and tells him that Christmas is covered this year, and tells the kids to give him a vacation, though they actually give him to Oogie Boogie instead. The night of Christmas Eve, Jack delivers presents to various children in the real world, though the presents, being designed by the citizens of Halloween Town, are monsters designed to torment. The military eventually gets brought in and shoot down Jack. Sally, seeing Jack in trouble, goes to Oogie Boogie's place to try and free Santa, though gets captured herself. Jack, having landed in a cemetery, is disappointed that his Christmas was terrible, but finds solace in the fact that he had fun nonetheless. He returns to Halloween Town and frees Santa and Sally and confronts Oogie Boogie. Oogie apologizes to him, but Jack is able to unravel him. Oogie tries to kill him, but Jack is able to unravel him and reveal that he is made of bugs. Jack apologizes to Santa, who goes back to the real world and fixes everything. Jack realizes that Sally has feelings for him, and the two kiss. Usually, I leave the music to the final part of the episode, but in the case of The Nightmare Before Christmas, I think I'll start with the music, because there are a surprising amount of them. From what I remember from previous watches, I thought that there were maybe 3 or 4 songs, but as it turns out, there are actually 11, so let's not waste any time. In 11th place is the song Poor Jack, which is not a bad part or anything. In fact, it summarizes the whole plot quite well, as we'll get into later, but it just doesn't function as a song that well, at least to me. In 10th place, Making Christmas, which really doesn't have a reason to be a song. It just shows the citizens of Halloween Town making toys that are monstrous. Not all too long or catchy of a song either, but not bad. I also like the monster that's proud of his hat that he made from a dead rat. That's funny. In 9th place, Jack's Obsession, which doesn't really get going until the second half, but it's fun to watch Jack's obsession over Christmas start from a place of trying to understand it so that it can belong to anyone, to him realizing that he really just wants it to be for him. In 8th place, Town Meeting Song, which is really fun in showing Jack trying to tell Halloween Town about Christmas when he himself doesn't quite understand it. Plus, him playing into their interests by making it seem more like Halloween is a very important part of the story. The song itself is also quite nice, with the citizens' interruptions making for fun rhymes. In 7th place, Finale/Reprise, which is a fun combination of Sally's song, This Is Halloween, and What's This, which does result in a bit of a messy song, but it's still fun seeing everyone's conclusions. Jack and Sally's final song is also really sweet, even if it feels like it's a completely different song. In 6th place, Sally's song, which has a very different beat and tempo to the rest of the songs, being a very mystical feeling one that relays Sally's feelings quite well, which is a nice change of pace given that most songs thus far have been about Jack. In 5th place, Kidnap the Sandy Claus, which is another song that doesn't really need to be made a song, but unlike Making Christmas, it works really well and is way too catchy. Lock, Shock, and Barrel are just really funny characters. In 4th place, Jack's Lament, which flows up and down very nicely and gets the whole plot into motion, showing Jack's struggles. Fun song with a lot of catchy lyrics. In 3rd place, Oogie Boogie's song, which I really slept on until this viewing. It is a really good villain song that is extremely well written, and probably Oogie Boogie's best scene, with him terrorizing Santa. In 2nd place, This Is Halloween, which is a great way to open the film and introduce all the residents of Halloween Town, with each being more absurd than the last. There's a good reason it became so iconic. In 1st place, What's This, with such a fast-paced and amazing feel to it that it's just lovely. Jack discovering the joy of Christmas is wonderful, and I love the way it almost becomes a villain song for Jack by the end, with him shouting that he wants Christmas for his own. Overall, a really good selection of songs. Does there need to be that many? Probably not, but I'd really only want to cut out a couple of them. The songs also do a really good job of aiding the story without subtracting from it, with maybe a couple of exceptions. These songs are very delightful and fun to listen to over and over again. Definitely a big factor in why I revisit this film so often. Next, let's talk about the main character, Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King. Firstly, though this goes for every character, Jack has a very unique and fun design that fits well with the unique story. Jack has a very interesting story, with him having everything he could realistically want and then some, being a local celebrity and being the organizer of Halloween in a town named Halloween Town. However, he is growing tired of doing the same thing over and over again every year. He then stumbles upon Christmas Town, where he gets the idea to shake things up by doing Christmas this year. What makes Jack's story so interesting is that his motivation is completely understandable. Sometimes, even when in a good spot in life, it's easy to become bored of the everyday monotony and wish for something new, even if life as it stands currently is perfectly fine, or good even. However, it is Jack's unawareness to his surroundings and his inconsideration of the consequences that gets him into trouble. Jack decides that they are going to do Christmas this year and does everything possible to make it happen. He embellishes the truth to the citizens of Halloween Town. He doesn't tell Santa about this until Christmas Eve so that he can't do anything, and he involves Oogie Boogie's boys despite knowing the danger. His blindness as he rushes into something unknown to him, and his unwillingness to listen to the voice of reason, that being Sally, that leads him to coming face to face with the harsh reality. And that is also where the moral of the story is found. Jack gets shot down on Christmas Eve for bringing chaos to the town and is forced to consider his actions. This is where Jack's likable side really shines through, as he shows that he really didn't mean any harm. He genuinely did want to bring Christmas cheer to everyone, but he didn't stop to consider anyone but himself, and in doing so made a mess of everything. However, he decides to pick himself up again and make things right. Before this, though, he realizes that this new adventure has reignited his motivation for Halloween, and this is where the message of the story can get misinterpreted, I think. Sometimes, mixing things up can give you a fresh perspective on things and give you a new appreciation. This is why Jack was so happy to celebrate Halloween again. However, as Jack experienced, being inconsiderate and careless while trying new things can lead to disastrous results, and thus, sometimes appreciating what you already have is important, rather than mourning what you don't. Anyhow, Jack confronts Oogie Boogie and frees Santa Claus, who fixes everything. The ending is especially sweet, with Santa, despite being upset at Jack, giving the people of Halloween Town a little taste of Christmas to applaud Jack on ultimately doing the right thing. Let us now discuss Sally, who serves as the attempted voice of reason to Jack, as well as the eventual love interest. Sally, I think, is a very odd character, maybe in part due to the fact that she herself isn't all that odd in the town filled with monsters. Being the creation of the mad scientist, Dr. Finkelstein, who keeps her locked up, she yearns for freedom and to be with Jack. When Jack goes on with his Christmas plan, she gets a vision that it will end poorly for him, and tries to warn him to no avail. When this doesn't work, she makes the skies foggy with her potion-making skills, but Jack's ghost dog, Zero, is able to light the way with his bright red nose. Sally then resorts to trying to free Santa, and almost does, but instead gets captured by Oogie Boogie, and has to wait for Jack to save them, and the two end up with each other. While I am glad that Sally got her own little side story here, I can't help but feel like there could have been more to it. Her skills with potion making and her ability to have visions of the future in particular could have used some more explaining. Or would have been nice if explored a bit more thoroughly. Similarly, her romance with Jack could have used some more explaining, if you ask me anyway. While I think it works really well for Sally's story, I think it is pretty much out of nowhere for Jack to suddenly fall for her, when the two have barely talked. He calls her his dearest friend, but I never really got that impression from their limited interactions. That being said, their final song and scene together is nonetheless sweet, and Sally herself is actually a pretty good character. I just can't help but see the room for improvement. Finally, we're going to discuss the villain of the film, Oogie Boogie. Oogie Boogie is a great villain with a great design, voice, and villain song. Admittedly, there isn't really a whole lot more to talk about than that, however. I feel like Shere Khan from the Jungle Book is very similar to Oogie Boogie in this way, as I really liked them both in their films, but at the same time I have to admit that they really could have benefited from more screen time. Oogie Boogie really only gets two good scenes. The one where he sings his song, which we already discussed, and the scene where he faces off against Jack. The final confrontation is great. While Jack and Oogie's relationship is poorly set up, you can really see the initial terror on Oogie's face when Jack arrives, which is really funny given his overconfident attitude previously. The fight itself is rather short-lived, but still a fun time. Overall, I just really like Oogie Boogie as a villain, and my only real complaint here is that he wasn't in the film more, which is really the best kind of complaint in a way. Also, his minions, Lock, Shock, and Barrel, are also really fun, and I enjoyed their minor redemption arc, where they help the mayor find Jack. The mayor is also a really funny character, by the way. I give The Nightmare Before Christmas a 9 out of 10 for being a very great and very unique film all around. I'm so glad that it held up as well as I hoped it would. Also, apparently there's a debate on whether or not this is even a Halloween movie, which really puts a damper on my month of reviewing Halloween movies, but whatever. It'll always be a Halloween movie to me. Definitely worth the rewatch every October. Well, that's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to share any opinions you had on the movie. A new episode releases each week, so stay tuned to see which film I cover next. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.